I am muted. I am so muted. I am so muted. Can you hear me now? This is my first time doing this. So I did a whole speech on mute. I love it. All right. So hopefully you can hear me much better. I think that the mixer's working now. Fantastic. All right. So I'm Jonathan. I am a senior software engineer. I'm also a boot camp instructor. About 8 or 9 years ago, I used to be a history teacher, and then I quit teaching history, and now I do um, software engineering. I've turned senior about 2 years in, so I've been about like 6 years ago. I turned senior, and I've been working at like mid-level companies, so I don't have like Facebook or Microsoft or any of that stuff in my background. I'm just a normal guy. I used to do a different job. Now I learned how to do software engineering. And then since 2020, the pandemic, I've been teaching coding boot camps. So people basically who are like, hey, um, I've had students that were like bartenders, right? Waitresses, like government workers, and now they're on to being software engineers, which is great. So what I thought to do for the live coding session, thought might be interesting, is to do a project that is not like simple. Okay, so not like a to-do app. I wanted to do something a little more complicated because my boot camp students, they're doing their final project right now, and like usually their final project is to showcase what they've learned. So I said, well, if they're doing a project, maybe it'd be cool if I did a project too. All right, so I thought maybe I would do something a little more complicated though. So I thought about it for a while and I came up with some requirements. And so it's going to be an IT ticketing system for a fictitious multinational corporation. So we can like think of a company that like has multiple offices. I'll get into the specifics later, but they have offices around the world, and we'd have to make an application that would allow people to log in, submit their issue, and make certain it gets routed to the correct person, so that people who are supposed to deal with the issue deal with it. And then there's a lot of little small details in there about, for example, elevating issues, workflows, stopping issues, things like that. So I've done a ticketing system before, actually. So this is kind of based off the same thing, but I added some more stuff to kind of make it harder. And then I've actually created GitHub that is like it's at yithril/solvit. I call it Solvit. I'm so funny with puns. But basically, it is going to be a ticketing system. And I put all my code here, so as I work on it, you guys can kind of take a look at it. Okay. As far as the tech stack, it's going to be .NET API for the back end and Angular for the front end. And the reason for that is because that's what my bootcamp students are doing. Like they have a C# bootcamp with an Angular front end and SQL for the back end. So I'm going to do that myself, so that I can follow them. Maybe there are maybe when I go over like what technologies and stuff I'm going to use today, there's probably some better choices for this, especially since it's going to be like large volume. But I think just sticking to those is perfectly fine. Oh, I'm also getting used to streaming, so there's a chat, which is awesome. Okay, so let's kind of get into it. So my goal is to start pinning down what I need to get done. So essentially, I also have a Google Doc in case. And again, I don't expect anyone to really read this, but I had it for myself to kind of say like what goals I have. All right, like what I want to have happen. So like the company, it's got 2,500 employees. They do robotics. They're in France, Germany, South Korea, Mexico, Brazil, and has 10 offices in the United States. So that's a pretty big company. Again, we're not talking like Microsoft here. Most people work at medium large size companies, which is what I've done most of my career. So I figured this would be fairly realistic, right? So essentially, my core requirements, basically what I want to get done over the next 2 or 3 weeks, because my bootcamp students are going to be finishing up with their project in about 3 weeks or so. And so I want to finish up alongside them. And so my core requirements, like what I want to get done, is users can submit a ticket. There's going to be a priority and severity. It's going to be RBAC, so people have different roles. It'll be like managers and like employees and different people in different departments. Okay, file upload for screenshots and documents. keeping track of ticket status, automated routing and assignments. So when you put your ticket in, you don't need to worry about who you're sending the ticket to. All you have to do is put the ticket in, and then it will whoosh to the right person. So different the trick is going to be the multi-department workflows. So like what happens if they play hot potato? Okay, so what happens if like IT kicks it over to this other department, which kicks it over to this other department, and that will be like one way. That will be actually pretty challenging. We'll do some internationalization so that we can deal with the whole like EU, Brazil, and Mexico stuff, and then ticket closure, like for inactivity and like higher ups just basically saying we don't want this ticket anymore. I've got some stretch goals for if I do have time. I don't know if I will because actually this is quite a bit of stuff. But the stretch goals would be like adding AI because you know everything's AI powered nowadays, and then multi-language support for user interface and ticket creation and SLAs. This stuff is kind of just stuff I thought of. I don't know if I'm ever actually going to get to it or not. All right, so I've already created basically like a blank .NET API. So if you're not into C#, that's fine. You don't really need to be to totally get what's going on here. But essentially, .NET is a framework for building APIs. I personally like it. It's the one I'm most versed with. Angular we'll be using for the front end. And so today I was going to sit down and start thinking about what needs to get done. So essentially, before I start like thinking of algorithms and design patterns and all that stuff, like I want to actually think about like what outside services do I want to use? How are those going to integrate with what I've got? And get that all set up, and then start modeling, like how am I going to model all these workflows and the tickets and things. And so the other cool thing about the live stream is that I kind of want to show you like the process warts and all. I feel like with a lot of tutorial videos, like everything's like polished, right? You don't see all the bloopers. You don't see the dev forgetting how to do stuff or looking stuff up or anything like that. So like this is more hopefully realistic. Just kind of show you like what real dev work actually like looks like. All right, so I already have a Trello board. I made this public. I put a link to it somewhere if you're actually interested in this. Don't know if you are, but it will help me keep track of what I need to get done. And so basically what I was thinking is I do need entity framework for the SQL database. I am going to need mediator. I want to use mediator for a command query responsibility segregation pattern, which I'll talk about later. I'm going to need to set up cores. I will need Swagger extension. It comes with Swagger, but I'm going to need the extra extension for the authentication. I need a unit testing project, and then I need to start designing the API and the models. So actually, this is like one of the things like when you get higher up, it's like you know how much work stuff is. Like when you're first starting off, it's like yeah, I can just like I don't know write the whole API like whatever, and it's like no, actually that takes like several hours, and so my brain is already thinking to myself like, geez, this is a lot, Jonathan. But let's get cracking. So let's knock out the typical thing I like to do. A lot of the stuff, if this were a real company, we would sit down with the business and we'd hash them out. But since I'm kind of doing this from imagination world and there is no like business partner for me to like ask questions to saying, hey, what does the customer actually want? I'm going to decide what the customer actually wants, which is actually pretty cool. So I'm going to go to .NET, and I do have a bunch of old code that I normally use that I've already written to do certain things for me. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just put Andy framework in. So let's go ahead to the solution. We're going to manage NuGet packages. And Andy framework, for those of you who don't know, it allows me to use C# to make database queries and to handle the database without having to actually write any SQL. So we're going to do Andy framework. Okay, Andy framework core, neat. Okay, oh, why don't they just check this box off automatically? There's nothing else on the list. All right, install it. Yes, my firstborn. And then I'm going to need design, SQL Server, and tools. Let's go ahead and get those two while we're at it. Okay, SQL Server, yes, and tools. So we can do migrations and things like that. All right, so I got those four things. I am going to need mediator. So mediator, okay, for reasons I will go into later. I'm not going to use AutoMapper. I don't really like AutoMapper. I'm just going to go ahead and write out my own static extension methods. I don't really want to use AutoMapper to switch between DTOs and regular objects. So we'll do mediator. We got mediator. We got entity framework core. Do I need anything else in here right now? Not off the bat. So we should be good with that part. So let's continue setting up entity framework. So I'm going to need a folder. I just call it data, and then I'll make a class. Call it app.db context. I mean, that's pretty generic. I just call it app.db context. You call it whatever you want. It should inherit from db context, and we should have to import entity framework core. So mediator is so essentially the idea of mediator. Let me actually get out the. If you're one of my students, you know that I like to use Microsoft Paint to like showcase things. So essentially, here's the way you can think about it. You have commands, and then you have like handlers. You basically say, I want to do something. And then you're like, okay, I can get that done. Okay, so it's in a normal application, these two things are normally like together, right? So someone makes a request for a list of employees. So you have an endpoint, you have a controller, and you're saying, okay, cool. Go to the database, grab a list of employees, hand it back to them. The thing is, though, that is all in one big block of code. Like, you're just basically going through every single step. Mediator allows us to kind of split that apart to what do you want to have happen? Like, what do you want to do? Creating a user, getting a list of employees, starting a workflow. And then you get to separate that from the things that actually can accomplish that task. And mediator is the thing that allows you to route from one to the other. So you're probably thinking that sounds overly complicated. Why would anyone ever do that? The thing is that what the cool thing you can do with it is you can have things that listen on the other end have multiple of them. So I want to do something. Cool. You can do this and you can do this in response to I want to do something. So instead of having just your code in one big block, because you separated it, one side can react to the other. And because they're like not directly connected, you can kind of, it's modular. You can take stuff out and put stuff in. So if I want to, like, for example, I want to do something. User registers for the website, right? I fill out the form. I want to be a user. Okay, cool. These things will respond to this command. So this is a like make user command. Okay, so that will issue a command. Here's the make user command. Mediator will know, oh, the make user command, this guy over here listens for that. And whatever other thing also can be like, yeah, cool. And mediator will basically take this command and send it off to whoever wants to listen to it. So that way, if you want to do like more complicated logic, because everything's broken up, mediator can just basically say, okay, cool. You can go and chuck this command to whoever's listening. And that way, because everything is broken up, I can test each little small part and then do a real big complicated thing with it. It might be overkill for most applications, because most applications are like, go grab a list of users, chuck it to the API, and that's it. And that's probably fine. Like, that's probably no need to use mediator. It's when you start getting like a huge amount of requests coming in, or like your program starts to get really more complicated, where one person wants to do something, and then there's a bunch of other things in response, and there's a lot of what have yous. Because you separated them, you can more cleanly have the flow go from one side to the other than if you had them in just one gigantic block. It does add a lot of complexity to the code, though. So that was why I was slightly hesitating to use mediator, because it will make it so that I have to create commands and I have to create handlers, where normally I wouldn't have to do that. But I think long run, because this has like the ticketing system has workflows. So like a person puts in a ticket, a lot of stuff could happen in response to that, right? It's not just I put in a ticket, somebody sees it. It could be I put in a ticket to the specific department, and because I put it to Department A over Department B, a whole list of other things happen. And so because the logic's more complicated, I kind of want to break everything up so it's a little easier for my brain to get around it. Yeah, very similar. I like to think of it very similar. Like I'm a big fan of GraphQL, by the way. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. So, but like GraphQL is a little more of like the idea is from the user's perspective, it's very free form. Like give me the exact query of what you want, and I'll give you the data. This is more like give me a command, and I will make it so that anything that cares about this command will be listening to it. And so that way, if I'm doing something complicated, I don't have to test the whole gigantic thing. I can just take little small bits and just test those parts. And as long as all the parts work, they're the sum is the whole is the sum of its parts. So all right, app.db context public app.db context. By the way, I sing when I code. DB context options, base options. You can see my IntelliSense knows exactly what I want. All right, so we'll leave that there. I will put more DB sets in later on, but that should be good for right now. All right, I need to add that here. So we're going to do builder.services.add DB context. I love the fact that they put this in. So I'm just registering it. Oh, I forgot to do app settings. Where's my app settings? All right, connection string. So this is if you don't know .NET, if you're familiar with like Node, you can think of it as like an environment file. Basically like stuff I don't want to hard code into my actual code because then hackers could see it. And so this is not going to be in GitHub. This is going to be on locally. So the file will be in GitHub, but I'll show you in a second what I'm going to do to keep stuff safe. We'll call this main DB. I have no idea what to call this. And we're going to leave this blank. All right. Oops. So let me turn off notifications. Didn't know that was going to pop up. Well, maybe next time it will. All right. So I'm going to leave this blank because when this goes into GitHub, I don't want a hacker to see what the connection string to my database is for obvious reasons. So I'm going to leave this blank. And what you can do with, I think this is cool, you can right-click on the actual project, and in Visual Studio there is, where are you? Manage user secrets. All right, and this is a file on my computer, and then a hacker will never ever see this. And so what I'm able to do is put my connection string here. And so since it's just on my computer and literally nowhere else, that means that I get to have this. And I put the connection string somewhere. Where'd you put the connection string, Jonathan? There we go. All right, I'm just going to use my local database. I have SQL Server Management Studio and a local SQL server. So I'll just use that for testing. And I'm going to call this solveitdb. Okay, cool story. Any framework will make the database for you. Okay, so you just have to tell it the name. And if it doesn't exist, then it will make it. So connection strings, I just have to call it the same thing I called it here. I called it main DB. All right, so do main DB. All right, the secrets file will be in my computer, so that way all hackers will see is just this, which is completely useless for them. All right, program.cs. I will do what the text you do here. Builder.services.configure. No, that's not it. What? Drawing a blank. It's use SQL Server. I gotta put a function in here. I need a lambda. Lambda x.use SQL Server. Yep. All right, and then I have to get it from the config file, so it is builder.configuration, not services, configuration. Get connection string, and then the name of the connection string, which is main DB. Is that a capital D and B, or yep, I did that. Okay, cool. All right. So, cool. That will get the database in, and that has to come before the builder.build line, or else it will literally not work. And that would be bad. So we've got the add DB context. I added that app settings and the secrets, and then that should be good. We don't have any models yet. Let me save everything. and close. And I do need to get my folder structure going. So I'm literally doing this like from scratch because I wanted you guys to see like what this actually like looks like what did I do at my job kind of thing. Okay, now I'm going to need services. So I'm going to do services in a moment. So here's services and models. All right, so I've got entity framework going. That's lovely. We'll do mediator at another point. I do know I want to use auth0 for authentication. I actually don't really want to use the built-in ASP.NET user stuff because that's a lot of overhead and I just need people to log in, but I am going to need role-based stuff. So here's what I'm thinking. Again, like Jonathan, you love paint. Yes, my students know this. Essentially, I'm thinking that I don't want to be responsible for token generation. So like JWTs, JSON Web Tokens. I'm thinking the authentication is going to be JSON Web Tokens. So the front end is going to basically have a token. If the person's logged in, the token gets chucked to the back end as proof that you're supposed to be here. So you can think of it like a bracelet at a carnival. If you buy the bracelet, you can go into the carnival and ride the rides. No bracelet, no carnival. So I can either do this myself. I can code it so that it can make tokens. I don't know if I trust myself to make a secure token that no one's going to be able to hack. Like I probably could. That sounds stressful. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use auth0, which is a third-party company that allows you to basically have a login system, so they'll be able to like log in on the Angular end of things, like actually set up the UI on there too with like a logo and stuff. And so that will generate the JSON Web Token that will be sent to the API. And so the next thing I'm thinking about is I'm going to need roles. So like here's like a user and they log in, but they're for example like a head of engineering or something. So like maybe they're like department head. Like maybe that's their role, and they have like the user's department is, I have no idea, like engineering. So it's cool like that they logged in, but I want to think about how I'm going to make certain that they are who they say they are. So I'm thinking authentication will go to auth0. So auth0 will basically say you're logged in or you're logged out. So auth0 will be responsible for that kind of thing. And then for authorization, determining like this ticket can only be seen by support desk users who have that role. Right, that's going to be authorization. So I'm thinking I don't want to necessarily have auth0 have all that data for the authorization stuff. So I'll do that in the API section. All right, so that should be okay. So let me think through that. That means then once I get the token, I'm going to have to therefore check to see who they actually are based on the claims in the token. Is that going to have a lot of overhead? Probably yes. Probably have to cache that. I still want to have control over authorization though. Because otherwise, the other option is auth0 could have this information in it, but then what will have to happen is that auth0 will have to be synced up with my backend. So like, if a new employee comes and we like onboard them, then we make a record of them in our database, but then they would also have to have a matching record inside of auth0. And so the two would have to be synced. And if there's ever a problem with the syncing, then that means that we'll have a record of them, but then when they try to do anything in the application, auth0 won't give them the proper permissions, and then there'll be like a bug. So like, why can't I see my tickets? I am the head of engineering. I should be able to do that. So I kind of don't want to put all that data in auth0, so I want to own it. So I think auth0 will just tell me whether or not they're logged in, and then I will figure out whether or not they should be able to see the thing I want them to see. So since that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and sign up for auth0 real quick. Okay, so let's go do that. I think I have an account with them already. I don't have to do that two-factor thing, do I? Yeah. Okay, yeah, they love two-factor. They love them some two-factor. And they should, honestly speaking. I shouldn't complain. All right, so this is probably bad to stream. I'm just thinking that, so let me take this off of here. I'm just realizing probably bad to put in your stream. All right, 1 second. For reals, Auth0, for reals. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so all I gotta do now is I'm going to go into my program.cs. I'm going to add the JSON Web Token related stuff. So I got all my client secrets stuff. And so let's go ahead and do that. All right. And I got again, I usually keep a lot of just old code I wrote so I don't have to write it twice. That way I don't have to think about it. So let's go ahead and do before the builder.build, we'll do auth0. And we'll do builder.services. What is it? Add authentication. And then let's do some options. And then we'll do a lambda. And then I think I need default authentication scheme is equal to JSON Web Token bearer defaults.authentication scheme. And bearer default has a capital D. And then I need, what do I need? Install package, find install latest version. Perfect. All right. And then I also need to set default challenge scheme to authentication scheme. All right. And then this is just boilerplate stuff. This is from the Auth0 website. It's not like I psychically know this. It's just I understand what the code is trying to do. So this is for I tell it I want a JSON Web Token as the bearer token. So I'll show you that in a little bit. But basically in the header, it's going to say bearer, and then we give it a token. And that's how it's going to know whether or not it's supposed to be there or not. And so options.authority. And I probably shouldn't do that for the moment, but yeah, it's fine. So we'll leave that blank. And then here, and then options.audience, I will leave this blank as well. I got to fill those in with the secrets from the Auth0, which I won't put on stream. Okay, but that's where my secrets are going to be in these two spots. So that basically, what this basically says is that it will go to Auth0 to figure out whether or not my JSON Web Token is valid. And if it is, it will let them through. If it's not valid, it will tell them to get lost. So for Swagger, I am going to need a button for authorizations. Let me show you what I mean by that. Hope I'm not talking too fast. There's a lot of stuff to do, especially with setup. We haven't even actually model anything or build the API. We're just literally doing setup stuff. This is what you do in the beginning. You have to do this kind of stuff in the beginning. So if, let's say, for example, this endpoint get weather forecast required someone to be logged in, there's, as you can see, no way to log in. How would you log in so you could actually use the endpoint, right? So what do? You got to tell Swagger that you have to allow a bearer token. So what I'm going to do is I could put all that code in program.cs, but then program.cs will be huge, this big. So I don't want that. So I think I'm just going to make a static extension method. So I guess I'll call this, what did I call this last time? Again, I already wrote this once. Swagger extension. All right, and I already have the code. If you're wondering, I actually, when I write something, I save it. I save all my old code that does stuff, because why reinvent the wheel? If I already have a piece of code that does what I want and I'm going to need it again, may as well just save it. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, this does need to be a static class though, because I'm going to show you why in a moment. And here we go. I just have this pre-written. Add custom swagger. What this does is it has a security definition. So it will allow me to basically say, here's the token, use the token when making the request. So that way, like you know what I'm saying, it will simulate someone being logged in when they're using the endpoint. That way it's more easy to use Swagger. Otherwise I'd have to turn off the authorization. That's kind of dumb. Okay, cool. Thanks, Prof. Nick. Thanks for being on the stream. So hopefully I'll be able to post it later so you can catch what you missed, because I know it's probably really late where you're at. All right, so we got the bearer token stuff, and you're like, well, what does this do, Jonathan? What this does is we're able to come into the program.cs, and instead of writing, like picture we had to write all this code and put it in program.cs. That would look pretty nasty. I don't want to do that. So instead, I'm going to do builder.services. Oh, come on, IntelliSense. Builder.services.add custom swagger. Okay, let's see, did I not name that? Public static swagger extension. There we go. I probably have to import it, duh. There we go. Okay, much better. Okay, from the program CS perspective. All right, it looks a lot better this way. All right, also need to do cores. Probably need to do cores because we're going to do that for Angular, so we know that's coming down the pipeline. So let me see. I know I already did cores once. And we'll just put it in. I'll probably have to adjust the policy, but let's go ahead and do cores. I know you're thinking, well, when are we going to do the cool like coding stuff? I hate to break it to you, but like when you first start a project, a lot of it is just putting down like the bricks that you need for later. Like I know I'm going to do cores because I'm doing a front end, and so I'm going to go ahead and put that all down first. All right, and then I think what I'll do is just add policy, allow Angular. And then I will do builder, lambda, and then what I want in the builder. So we'll do builder.allow, where is it? Okay. I think I can put local, no, you can't take a string? You don't take a string? Why would you take a string or allow any origin? No overload takes one object, okay. All right, allow credentials. What are the others? Set is origin allowed. We'll get back to this. I think I need to look up how to do this. To do a specific one. So we'll just do this. Allow any origin. Allow any method. Allow any header. All right. I'm going to have to change that because that kind of defeats the purpose of cores, which you just allow anyone to do anything. So we're going to have to change that. I'm going to put that on my list of things to do. And then I need app.useCores. And I need to put, what did I call it already? Remember for Goldfish, allow Angular. And I also need authorization, and authentication comes before authorization. Whew. All right. I know, a lot of like boring like setup stuff, but honestly, I wish when I started off that someone showed me this stuff, because it took a long time for me to figure out this is what you needed to do. All right, so we got that all in. And now if we do Swagger, let's check this to see that there's that authorization button. All right, see now there's an authorize button. This wasn't here before. So what that means is now when I click it, I can put my token in later so that I can simulate someone being actually logged in. All right, I got a bunch of other stuff that I do in the beginning of a project to kind of make things go faster. So I'm going to make a base model for my auditing fields. And it'll be an abstract class because I don't want anybody instantiating this. And so basically, this is going to be something that all my models, all the entities in my database are going to inherit from, so I don't have to repeat. These columns. So they're all going to have an ID. they're all going to have the 4 auditing fields. So created by, which is a string, and then created on, which is not a string in IntelliSense. It is a datetime. And then there is updated by, which is a string, a public string updated by, and then public datetime updated on. So these are my auditing columns, and I think I want to make this updated by nullable and this nullable, because it may not necessarily ever get updated. So maybe there are no values for those 2 things. All right, and everything's going to have an ID, so that's there. Double checking myself. All right, cool. That's for later. What else do I want to do? I want to create my base controller. API, I'll make it empty. Okay, API base controller. All right, so what's this sucker going to do? This sucker is going to be the thing that all of my APIs will inherit from. So that's going to be an abstract class, because Lord knows I don't want you to instantiate this thing. And I don't need the route, because this is not a route. And so I do have code that I already wrote. And what this is going to do is I want to know who the currently logged in user is. And that comes from the JSON web token. And so I need to have code that says take the token and then figure out who the user is and then give me a string so I can have their user ID. So I kind of did this already, but let's go ahead and do it. Get current user ID. And I'll just put I already wrote code for this, so I'll just put it in here. Okay, neat. All right, so what this does is the token has claims. I'll actually show you in a moment when I get the token thing running. But tokens have claims, and it has a specific claim called sub, and that has the user's user ID. And so as long as the token that the front end gives me is a valid token, I can basically say, hey, like, what's their user ID? And then this will allow me to more conveniently get it. So that way, because I'm going to need the user ID a lot during my program. So I'm going to need a nice quick way to get that done. So let's see what else. Looks like that's most of the stuff I need to get done in the beginning. All right, and then next what I want to do is start on my models. That way I can do a migration and I can get my database going. All right, do I need anything else? I usually like double check myself to make sure I didn't go like too far ahead too fast. Okay, but I think I'm pretty good for the moment. I do have to make a note for myself actually. Please, for the love of God, so I'll put to do. And please, for the love of God, change this. Okay, that way I can go back to cores and make it so that it only accepts stuff from Angular. I just forgot the syntax. All right, and I'll put my super secret stuff in here so nobody on stream sees it. Okay, because Lord knows I don't want to get hacked. Not that it really would matter that much because there's not much to do here. But I'll put it in, and then we'll kind of I'll show you how the token and stuff works if everything goes well. All right, put that in there, and then I will save this. All right, and then we should be good. So there we go. All right, again, if you're just joining the stream, I got some new people coming in, I guess, or people coming in and out, not sure. I'm Jonathan. I am a bootcamp instructor for a coding bootcamp, and I'm also a senior software dev. Although I can't say that I've worked at Microsoft or Facebook or anything like that, but I've worked for about 7 or 8 years doing software for mid to large size companies, and I've been in a lot of dev teams, and so I wanted to kind of live stream myself doing a project because my bootcamp students are doing a project. So they're doing their final project, which is going to be .NET, SQL, and Angular. And so I said, cool, why don't I do a .NET, SQL, Angular project with them? Also, hopefully it helps them in kind of like helping them with their own project, kind of thinking through what to do. All right, so I think that's it. I need to go to Postman. And let's see, let's get a token, and let's see if it does the thing. So here's my OAuth token. Neat, I got an access token. That's working great. Here's my, so in case you don't know what a JSON Web Token is, JSON Web Token is essentially like, again, it's like a bracelet that you get. Like once you log in, cool, you get a bracelet, bro. You're allowed to go into the carnival. You're allowed through. Okay, so the tokens is basically just this really long string, but inside the string it has information we can use for stuff. So let me kind of show you. So let's go to jwt.io. And we can go like this. And so it has a header, a signature, which is where all the authentication, like the encryption stuff happens, and then the payload, which is what we care about. And so the subclaim, these are all each claims. Basically, the token can have information about the user, which are claims, and then you can extract that from the token to know things about the currently logged in user. Because Angular and .NET are working on two separate computers, they're completely different from one another. So you got to have some way for Angular to let the backend know, hey, this user is like logged in successfully, and here's who they are. And so here's a subclaim, and I have a helper method already made to grab the subclaim from the token and say, cool, here's your current user ID. And then with Swagger, that token I just generated can go in this green box, and then I can paste it and authorize, and now all of my API calls will be authorized, which is pretty cool. All right, so I think that's good enough for basic setup. Let's start modeling. All right, so let me go back to my requirements, because that's going to determine what I'm going to model. All right, user can submit tickets to specific departments or projects. So I'm just going to make a little list of what models I think I'm going to need. And again, the whole point of me live coding is to, again, to kind of like show you what I'm thinking as I'm doing this. So I'm trying to do like an actual project. So I will do some of the boring stuff off screen later on, but I do want to show like what I'm doing. And I could be wrong. I could like make a horrible, awful, galaxy-ending mistake with my modeling or something. But I did want to kind of show you like this is how devs actually do their thing. So I know I need a user. Okay, but will a user ID suffice is my question, because maybe it will, probably it won't, but we'll see in a moment. And we have priorities, so we have a ticket model, we're going to need a ticket. A ticket has to have a priority and a severity, and it needs to have probably a priority, severity, and a status, and it needs to have the title of the tickets, like here's a one-line thing of what my problem is, and then it needs to have a description to say like here's what my actual problem is. Okay, so if you're just joining, I'm building a ticketing system for a fictitious company for their IT department, for people to write tickets and then say here's what's wrong, and then have it route to the correct person. All right, so the ticket will have these priorities, severity, status, title, description. The base model will already have all the auditing fields, so I'll know when it was put in. And then what else do I want to do? Anything else for the ticket that we might need? I know who authored the ticket. I know when the ticket was put in because of the auditing fields. Anything else? Probably a location. But we'll know who's putting the ticket in, so you would know what their location's about, presumably. All right, may have to add a couple of things more. Put a little star here. Normally, again, if I had a real team, I would go ask the product owner, like, what do they want on a ticket? So I'm just imagining. We'll have roles, definitely roles. We'll have, let's see, what else we want? So we have tickets, we have roles we have departments. We'll have to have some information about what department, probably like the address, phone number, and where the department is. I wonder, in a real company, would the department be located in a specific area, or would the department, like, for example, would IT be over everyone in all the different countries, or would there be like IT EU, IT Brazil, IT Mexico? Let's think about that later. Not sure we're gonna break up department by location. All right, but the departments will have a location. So I think the departments need to have a location, an address, And we can break it also up into country and city. All right, and then that's fine. So, because I think we'll probably, in the companies I've worked at, they're multinational. They have departments broken up. So like they'll have the same department but in multiple areas. All right, anything else I want to do? Ticket closure. I have the user. I have the ticket that they're going to put in. Its status. Do need comments because they should be able to comment on a ticket. There should be a thread. Especially if the person is going to reply to something. So people need to be able to communicate with each other about the status of their ticket. So they should be able to comment on the ticket itself. That should be separate. Okay. Roles, departments. All right. I think this is good enough to get started. And then now I need to think about what the relationship between these objects are going to be, because that will tell me how to actually write them. So let's think about that. Again, rough draft. Okay, but let's see. I've got a ticket which has a user ID, so it has a user. So this is, say this is the ticket. And it will have like the person turning in the ticket, the created by is the person turning in the ticket, and then there are a group of people who are related to the ticket, essentially. Like they're the ones that should be taking care of what this person's problem is. And so we could do tickets like support personnel. I'm going to change that, but that's a many to one. That's like many users to one ticket. So we'll think of that. So we'll say basically with relationships, you have certain categories. So basically the way I look at it, it's either many to many, many to one / one to many, one to one, or nothing. And so when I'm thinking through my models, I just essentially look off this menu and be like, okay, cool, like which one is it? So many users to one ticket, and then created by will just be one. So there's many users to one ticket. Cool. And then many users to a department. Okay, can a person belong to multiple departments? Let's say no for right now. Okay, let's say no for right now. So we're going to do users, many to one. Otherwise, it'd be many to many if users can have multiple departments. All right, so users are many to one, and then what else is there? What else I have? User could have, I think, one to one with roles. For right now, to keep it simple, but I think in real life, it would depend how the company does its business, because a lot of times a person could have one role in one location and a different role in a different location. And so if I did that, I'd have to tie the role to the location, and that makes things a lot more complicated. So I think for just roles, I'm going to just do there's a one-to-one relationship, because I don't want to get into you're a manager if you're working at Bowling Green, Ohio in the US, but then if you're in the office in Paris, then you're something different. That might be something that the company might want, but I'm going to keep it simple. All right, and then comments, that's easy. Comments are, we'll do comments. That's just many to one. Many comments to one ticket. All right, so what else am I let's me think this through again. Many to one, again, for support personnel, and then a single person creates a ticket. I don't think I'm going to allow a person to create a ticket on behalf of a department. So I create a ticket. It has support personnel. There's probably many of them, all right? And I'll let the ticket just know who's responsible for helping the person to put the ticket in. And then there needs to be a category of person who maybe wants to be visible on the ticket, but it's not a person that's there specifically to help with the issue. So for example, I'm in HR. I put in a ticket for tech help. The tech people are added. The appropriate tech people are added to the ticket, and then if I escalate it, then I can add my boss. So because like if it took a long time, I may have to escalate and let my HR boss like kind of step in, and then she can be put on the ticket as well. So in that case, I could put, what do I call this? Ticket watcher? No, it's a terrible name. Because they're not personnel. It's not the person who created the ticket. It's just other people who are like aware of the ticket, who need to be visible. Visibility users. I have to come up with a better name. Is a many to one. So people who care about the outcome of the ticket, but they did not create it and they're not there to help. All right, so cool. This will decide how I build things. Tickets, roles, departments. All right, let's start knocking this out. All right, now that I have some idea of what the models are going to be, let's start doing them. So let's do the easy one first, is department. So if you don't know much about C#, that's fine. C# has the thing called entity framework if you're just joining, and it allows me to basically make a C# class that represents a table in a SQL database. So actually, I will fire up SQL Server Management Studio while I'm at it. All right, and I'm going to have it inherit from base model. That way I get all of these things for free. I have to retype all that. So it's got a location, a company. I think I want some enums. Because I don't see a multinational corporation changing what countries they're in all that much. So since that's the case, I think we can get away with a country enum, company countries. And that way it can be USA, Mexico. We could even do, we'll let the city handle that. So Mexico. Well, this isn't Java, Jonathan. You don't have to do capitals. Mexico, France, Germany. Why don't you? Well, we could make this. France comes first, then Germany, then Mexico. Brazil comes before this. We can make it somewhat USA. So Brazil. So they're in, and then South Korea. Okay, so these are the countries that the company is in. So the departments will be tied to a country. All right, that way, like different offices who are in different countries might have different organizational structure, and so I don't have to have a department just in general, and then have say oh, in Europe we do this department differently than in the U.S. We just have different department objects. All right, cool. So we'll say public. I don't know, country is company country. Say country get set. I'll have to import this. Did I spell that wrong? Company country. Let's make that singular. Neat. All right. They have an address. And they have a city. Okay, what else did they say that they had? Oops, don't want SQL just yet. All right, they have a location, address, country, city. I got the country, got the address, got the city. All right, and then obviously their name. So they need a name, public string name, the name of the department. Do I need anything else about the department? No, it should be good. All right, so I got the department, that's knocked off. And then I will need a user. Yeah, because we're not going to be able to just suffice with the auth0 username. I'm going to actually need an actual user. So base model, and then we got their first name and last name. I usually separate first name and last name rather than have a whole name and then split it. It just makes most sense. You need first name and last name. And then I have they have a department. So we can actually do the relationship now. So department, that's the department that they belong to. And then the cool thing about Entity Framework is by writing properties, you can actually set how the tables relate to one another. So that's why I was going over like many to one, one to one earlier and thinking about it, because when I'm writing the models, then I can do like public list of users, and that way the database will keep track of which users belong to this department. And so by just writing the navigation properties, I can basically say, okay, cool, there are many users to one department. Neat. Okay, so first name, last name, email, department. Do I need anything else from you? I might think of something in a moment, but that's fine. All right, anything else that's easy on this list? Probably a role. Get rid of this nasty base model. All right. I'm not using the identity stuff, so I don't think that these names will collide, but maybe role might. So let me rename this to like user role, just in case the word role is going to collide with something else. All right, what do I want? User role, it's got a name. I think the role, I just want the role to be the role for right now. I don't want to have to tie it to a department or anything like that. And then I guess the company flowchart could tell me who's boss, right? So I don't need that. I can just basically say the name of the role, and then I can give a user a role. I think that makes the most sense. So public, let's see, the user role is their role, and then the role can keep track of how many users it's got. So public list of users, all right, many to one, so many users for a role. Neat. All right, what else do I want to do? They got the user has a department that they belong to. They've got the role that they have. I probably have to do the thing in SQL where you reference another row within the same table. Is it called self-referencing? I always forget the name of it. It's like self-join, basically. And so because the manager, so I'm going to have to use another user, because basically public user reports to, because I have to get who the person's immediate supervisor is. Okay, so that way I can get the chain of the company. So when the ticket is put in, I need to know who is in what department, who is what role, who works for who, and so I need to know who this person reports to. All right, neat. All right, and then the tickets is the next one. I gotta do that before I do the comment. Okay, base model. And then what do I want to do with the ticket? What I say I want to do with the ticket. Priority, severity, status. Okay, so priority, severity, and status. Those sound like enums to me. Okay, ticket enum. Ticket priority. And then ticket status. I could search for enum. Is that in the list? It never usually is in the list. Priority, ticket severity, and then ticket status. And enums make sense because there is a set choice for these things, so it makes sense to use an enum. All right, I think I already wrote what statuses I want. Office locations, employee distributions. Yeah, minor, moderate, major, critical. Those are the priorities, and so priorities: low, medium, high, and critical. Let's do priority first. Low, medium, thank you, IntelliSense, high, and critical. Okay, so those are my priorities, and then my severity is minor, moderate, major, critical. Minor, moderate, major critical. Why are you doing that? Oh, because it's a class, Jonathan. Change it over to an enum, and you won't have that happen to you. Critical. All right, so that's my minor, moderate, major, critical. And then last is my status. What status I do I want to put here? All right, so that's an enum as well. So did I put that in my thing or no? Problem categories, departments. I forgot to think up ticket statuses. Did I do that in the first part? Here we go. Open, in progress, escalated, resolve, close. I don't want to remember all that, so I'm going to put it as a comment here for the moment, and then I'll get rid of it. So open, in progress, escalated, resolved, closed. All right, priority, severity, status. I got those three things, right? By the way, thank you for joining the stream. This is my first attempt at doing live coding, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully you're enjoying it so far. I know it's probably not, I don't know, like, again, I just kind of wanted to code and let you hear my thoughts as I go through this, and so hopefully it is of help to some people, you know, who knows. Let's see, I got ticket priority, so public ticket priority. Yep, IntelliSense is crazy. Severity. Status. All right, and so now I said we need to have, we already know the person who put the ticket in. We gotta have a title and description. Cool, so we know what the title and description is. And if we go back to my thoughts out loud, I need the support personnel, the people who are responsible for it, and then like the visibility users. So how am I going to model that? Because I could do users again. Will Entity Framework make like a ticket user? So what Entity Framework is going to do if I were to, we can experiment. If I do a list of users here, what's it going to do? Right, the user's not going to know it's made a one, right? So I have to create another table for it. I'm actually curious. Let's see what Entity Framework does. Public list user. I know I can use like the Fluent API thing and tell it, but I'm just curious as to what it will do. So support users, because there could be more than one. And what the heck name did I give the other ones? The people who are like want to watch but they can't, visibility. Okay, so list of people who are, let me mute this. Visibility users, support users, description, title. What else do I want? Do I want anything else? Did I miss anything? Comments, we'll do comments in 1 second. All right, cool. All right, I do need comments next. Comment. Base model, and then what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? So the comment will have obviously the user that made the comment. It can self-reference, so it needs to, if it's in a reply to another comment. So parent comment. So like you have a comment, and then this could be null. So that means it's the first comment in the string. And so then, I'm sorry, in the like the list of comments, and then what's this comment in reply to? So I think maybe like reply to would be a better name, be a little more clear. And then the comment has a content, like what the person actually typed. I already have the auditing field to tell me when and who made the comment, and so that should be okay for right now. Because when I get all the comments in a thread, we need to know the ticket that it goes to. Okay, and so let me think. I will be able to get select all comments where ticket ID equals 1. I've got my list of comments. I can then loop through them and check to see who their parent is, and then make a tree, and then show it. Okay. What I could also do to simplify this is I could just show the comments in chronological order and let people tag each other, but then it may be unclear as to who's replying to what. And that might make people angry. So we'll leave the tree up here, and then I can have a list of comments. Right, I can just so I can just do like comments, not comment users, comments. All right, cool. The ticket is probably the most complicated of all my models. All right, so we've got all of the models. So I've got a ticket. Getting more people. That's nice. It's cool. Welcome. So this is my live coding stream. I teach boot camps, and I am teaching C# and JavaScript boot camps, as well. I'm also a senior engineer, and my students are doing their boot camp right now. They're doing their final project for the boot camp, and so I thought I'd join them and make a final project myself, but make it one that's probably a little more complicated. And so I'm doing a ticketing system for a fictitious multinational IT department. And so right now I'm using .NET as the back end. I'm going to use Angular for the front end. And so right now I'm going through and figure out how I'm going to model everything. I probably made some mistakes already, but so far I have comments, departments, tickets, users, and user roles. Made a bunch of enums for the ticket statuses. I did a bunch of setup. So all this stuff I'm going to be using for later. Okie doke. So we got all that, and now I need to add the DB sets to AppDB context so that there actually is like tables in the database. So let's do that. Public DB set comment. Oh, come on now. Comment. Once I import the first one, I won't do that, because it will have the namespace, and I won't have to do that anymore. Public DB set users. Thank you, IntelliSense. And public DB set department. And public DB set ticket. And I already got, so tickets, so comments, departments, ticket, users, user roles. I think I got everybody. All right, sweet. All right, so Andy Framework will actually just straight up make these tables for me and then do all the foreign key magic, which is nice. When I was a junior dev, my first job, I had to write CRUD functions for 84 different tables. So all the create, read, update, delete for 84 different tables, and it was absolutely awful. And so I love Andy Framework. It does all that stuff for me. All right, so I've got the tables. Neat. Got my enums, got all the stuff. Let's see if we can actually do a migration. I'm afraid, because I don't know if I did the relationships correctly. If I don't do the relationships correctly, then it's just going to yell at me. But I want to see now if I got them correct. Oh, another thing I got to think about. The ticket, this description, because this is an international company and there is no guarantee that they will write their ticket in English. That is correct. So, reason I think that the reason I'm bringing that up is because I have to figure out whether I want to use. There's two ways of handling this. So in SQL, there's a lot of different ways to do text, but the two main ones are nvarchar and just regular old varchar. And so regular old varchar is good enough for English. So if you have like a language where there's like just regular like Latin alphabet, then you can use that. But if you have like Arabic or Thai or Korean, some non-English alphabet, then you have to use nvarchar. Otherwise, the encoding will be wrong. So like in varchar, you try to like save like foreign script, it'll come out like all question marks, which is not what you want. And so I just thought about the fact that this is an international corporation. And so if that's the case, then there is a chance, because I'm thinking, yeah, Korea has a separate alphabet completely. Brazil and Mexico, they use diacritics, so they have like accent marks. And so I don't know if Unicode handles accent marks, but I'm just going to assume it doesn't. So I do need to make certain that this is NVARCHAR, which I think it is off the rip for Entity Framework if you do strings. So I should be good with that. Another thing I was thinking about doing was that the thing is NVARCHAR takes twice as much space as regular varchar. So like when you save something in the database, if it's varchar, it will have like 1 byte, and then nvarchar for the same information will be 2 bytes. And so I'm thinking if we have like 1,000,000 tickets, right? Because like over the span of a few years, you're going to get like hundreds of thousands of tickets. And so if I have to save stuff as nvarchar, but I was thinking is could I segregate the tickets into English tickets and non-English tickets, because then I could save the English tickets as varchar and save space in the database, and then I'm stuck with the non-English ones. They have to be nvarchar no matter what I do. So do I want to do that? Is it worth the if statements? I don't think so. That's a little complicated, but it would save me space. I think since most of the tickets will probably be in English, that would save me a lot of space, though, in the database. I wouldn't need as much hard drive space to hold my data if most of it were varchar. But then I'd have to check to make sure that the tickets were all, like, English before, like, I put them in. And someone could easily, like, write their ticket in Spanish if, like, forget to select the language. So it's probably... Even though that would be more efficient, I think a user could easily screw up like what language they're writing it in, unless I had some like special fancy thing to guess what they typed in. I don't think I want. That's way too complicated. So I think we're just going to stick with nvarchar, and I think I'm going to get hit with the amount of hard drive space I'm going to need to save everything. That sucks, but I think that's the way to go. But I do want to keep track of the language. So let's make an enum for that. Okay, I'm just picking a language enum. I don't think there's a one that already says language, so. And there's English, not Java, and Spanish, and Portuguese. Is that EUSC? I think it's EUSC. French, German, Korean. So we can probably put this into some form of Korean, and then Portuguese and Spanish. All right, and those are like the official languages of the company. All right, because the company will be so like I'm writing this program for a fictitious multinational company, and so since they're all over the world, some users are probably only going to be able to write tickets in their native language, and so I need to be able to account for that when I save the ticket data. So I'm going to have to also keep track of what language the ticket was written in. Okay, because that will help me, especially on the front end, like if I need anything special, like if I have to like rearrange things or something like that, it'd be nice to know like what language the ticket was written in. All right, so priority, severity, status, the title of the ticket, the description. I can handle the sanitization of the interior of the ticket later. The people who are the support users, the visibility users, and the comments related to the ticket can all be like loaded. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, and then I do need to put attributes on all of these. So let's start with what's required. It's an enum. I don't think it's nullable, but let's just put required on top of it. I could be wrong about enums being nullable, but because I think if you don't give an enum, it will just go to the first value in the list. But I want to just also be really clear about what's required. So I want a title, I have to have a description, I have to have a language, and then I'm going to just make this equals new list user, and then this can be empty. Like maybe there aren't. I think there should be, but I'm going to have the business logic handle that to make certain there's at least support users. There may not be any visibility users. And then comments will fill in later. Not list of user, list of comment. All right. These will be empty, and these are all required. And then for title, I want max, I think it's max length. Yeah, the title will be to be no more than 50 characters. And the description to have a max length, maybe like 500 characters. I don't think people are going to write a book for their support ticket, but I don't want to save too much data. If they have additional stuff, they could put like, they could like upload things, and they can also write comments to give like further nuance. Maybe like it's like 750. Some people write small books to try to protect their jobs. All right, required max length. Do I need anything else? Do I want to do like any sort of like regex stuff? Don't think I need it. Should be good. All right, that's fine. Let's look at comment. All right, looks like I got some people here. Didn't think I'd get anybody. Look at my first stream. Welcome, welcome. Hope you guys are enjoying it. This is required. And this is the comment, and I don't want, I think the max length for a comment, people leave really big comments. People leave really, really, really big comments. I think I'm going to stop people from filibustering other people, though. Because I also have to make certain that there's not too much text in the content, because then the, like, visually, like, if I let them write a book, it will, like, take all the other content and, like, drill them all the way down the end of the page. I don't want that. Okay, so we did that. It's required. Okay, cool. Department. Okay, I need that's required. Okay, not sure if chat is, no chat was working, so I'll have some other people chat earlier. Hello, everyone. Do required. I also need the name. I don't think I need to be there's not that many records in the department, so I don't need to be like super duper focused on how much space it takes. So I think I'm just going to let them put the city and address and name how they want to put it in. That I won't cut short the length. We did ticket already, right? Yes, we did. And then user, I need their first name and last name. I'm thinking for address, I could do like regex. I think, there's email here. There's an email one. Yeah, email address. They got that one. All right, and I'll leave that there. So I have an email address, their first name and last name. I don't think I'll do the whole like searching for letters thing. So like if, I don't know, if their name is like 5, then their name is 5. All right. And then user role. I'll probably put more stuff in here later, but I'm just going to put required for right now. All right, so it looks like everyone's got their validation going. That's all well and good. City address. Is there an address one? There's email address. I know there's phone number and email. Oh, let's see. Where's the email for the user? I did do email. Do they have a phone number? We can do phone number too. Why not? Just so I can use it. I think there's a phone, yeah. Love these attributes. They're so much fun. All right, cool. So I think I wanted to make sure I put the validation on all of my columns first, so that when I do my migration, in the SQL table, it will put the appropriate like not null and all the validation there, so that way I don't have to like set it. So that's cool. All right, user role. Language, all right, save everything, close out of the stuff, and let's try to do a migration and watch it horribly fail. Where is my open terminal? And then what do I want to do? I want to do .NET EF migrations add initial. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. I don't care about all that. There are multiple relations between user tick without configured foreign key properties, without names depending on discovery order. Consider. I knew it. I knew it. It's right. It's right. It's not going to like this. I need to make separate classes for these. I knew it. That's okay. We can get rid of this. It's trying to be all okay, but so we'll do support user because really I want to keep them separate anyway. Support user, and then I'll also have a visibility user. Okay, the warning is correct. Okay, basically what this is telling me is that because I had my ticket with a bunch of like relationships to users, it would have to create a column, like a shadow column that is not directly accessible through your properties, so that you can keep the relationship between the two. And from experience, no, I don't want that. That's extremely annoying. So I would rather just create separate classes to relate the users. So like this is the support user, and I'll just basically say like here's the user that it's like I just need their user ID. Honest to God, I could probably just load them all based off of that. So go away, and so instead I'll have a list of support users and a list of visibility users. And then, do I need this? It's convenient. I like it. I don't like to have that be no later and bite me in the butt. Cool. All right, cool. So I don't think it will complain about that. And so what do I need to know about these guys? I just really need to know their user ID. I can get that from Auth0 user ID. I'll probably change this, but I think it's fine for right now. Like once I get into that part of the application, then I might change the way that this works. But it's right. I shouldn't have that sort of thing because the user doesn't necessarily have many tickets, right? There's nothing on the tickets end. All right, let's try the migration again. Up arrow, hit enter. All right, cool. Didn't complain or yell at me. All right, cool. Let's take a look. I always check my migration file after I make it. All right, we're gonna create departments. I hate this nvarchar max that takes up a lot of space. I may change that because again, like I'm thinking about what happens when we have 1 million tickets. So it may like the first year, it may not seem like a lot, but like if people put like, I don't know, 100 tickets a week or whatever, like that adds up over the course of like 5 years, like pretty quickly. So if I'm using a bunch of hard drive space on my database that I don't need, I don't want to use nvarchar max. Take up a lot of extra space. But for right now, I think while I get this thing up and running, I'm not going to worry too much about that. So we're creating a roles table, departments table, ticket table, create on updated by, description, primary key, users. I always check this file before I can update the database because you should. I know it's not the most sexiest thing to do, but you definitely should because you don't want any surprises. All right, support user. All right, and then create indexes. All right, and so I will also, let's go ahead and update the database. So .NET EF database update. Oh, I gotta do, oh God. So foreign key constraint users reports to. 2 ways to do this. Annoying. I'll just look it up. Entity framework core self-referencing relationship. All right, where is the docs for that? I could do a stand-in right now, but I probably want to do this the right way. So self-referencing. Nope. Not on the docs. Where's a quick answer for this? Foo bar has many with one, has foreign key. All you gotta do is on model creating stuff. Yeah, you probably do. Okay. All right. Neat. So I have to tell it explicitly how to do this. I think what I'll do is I'll make this a string for right now. And then I'll look up how I want to do that. I think I have to put that in the Fluent API in the AppDB context on model creating. So let's think through this. Public override on model creating, I think it's called. Is that what it's called? Override void on model creating. It returns void. All right, neat. And then, why are you angry? Did I name it wrong? Public, I thought that override. Protected, it's protected? Okay, protected. Oh, duh, because I'm inheriting it. And then I am doing model builder. There we go, that's the right signature. All right, so what does this want me to do? You want me to define with the Fluent API what I do for the user. So let's see, I've got model builder.entity user. Not capital M, lowercase m. Oh, builder.entity user. And then entity. Yes, Slow Jam, C#. So if you're just joining, I am a bootcamp instructor and a senior software engineer, and I have students who are doing their final project for the bootcamp, and I'm joining them. So I came up with a project of my own. The API is going to be written in C#, and then the front end is going to be written in Angular with SQL as the back end. So what you're looking at is C# right now. Specifically, I'm doing entity framework and forgetting how to do self-referencing tables. And then, no, Jonathan, it's not a function. It is static. So does it have a foreign key or no? Actually, why don't I just table this for right now? I think what I will do is just make this a string reports to. And then that way I can figure out later who they belong to. Otherwise, I think it makes a chain all the way up. All right, re-add the migration. I haven't actually applied the migration to the database, so I can just delete these files all day long. And then we'll do database update. Users use reports to, I changed that. Oh, I probably didn't save. Yada yada. Go. Okay. Comments reply to ID because many cycles. I could make this easier and just have a wall of comments. You could do that, Jonathan. You can have a wall of comments, and then people could write the @ symbol and tag each other. You could do that. You could go down that path. That would make this much easier. Because in the content, you could just have the @ symbol, and that would be it. Do it. Make it simple. Okay. Keep it simple for the immediate thing. I'm self-referencing. It's not the world's greatest. All right, one more time. Okay. Also, I wanted to do this live because I wanted you to see me screw up. Because I want my students and people to see, like, I make mistakes too. I forget how to do stuff. I am a human being. Okay. So even if you have a lot of experience, okay, you can forget how to do stuff. Go. Do the thing. Yes. All right. Now, what happened? So Entity Framework basically will take all of my C# models and create tables. So I'm going to connect to my local SQL server, and then I will go check to see it has Solvit DB. So the name of my application is going to be Solvit, and I should have some tables. And there we go. Comments, departments, roles, tickets. Okay, there's no data in them currently. All right, but you can see that it made all the each column. Like, so for example, let's go to tickets so you can compare. So the properties of this ticket object are priority, severity, status, title, etc. And so you can see that the properties of the object became columns in the database. Okay, and so the database types, like that's the kind of data it is. If you go to the design section, it's like for strings, it will default to nvarchar max. I'm probably going to change that. Actually, the fastest slow jam, if you want to be like in terms of like development, like how fast to like knock them out, or how fast do they respond. Okay, I'll wait for you in chat. But like, basically, do you mean like how fast they respond to like requests, or how fast it is to like build one from scratch? All right, so I got my tables. I will probably have to load some data into the tables for the departments and for the users, just to get some initial users and stuff in there. But now I've got my base models. Okay, cool. So now I definitely need my data transfer objects. We have a folder for that. And do I need anything else? What else do I need? A response. Okay. Probably Node is probably the fastest. But like, in all honesty, we're talking about like something that's already super fast and something that's like slightly less super fast, right? Like, so I don't think it really matters in the end. Well, like what's going to be the only time I think it would probably matter is if you like. It depends on where you deploy this. Like if it's a lambda or a function. So if you Azure calls them functions, AWS calls them lambdas. You can take an API and deploy it to the internet. And then the Lambda is a really cheap way to run your API. So it receives a response, it starts up, it gives a response back. So request comes in, it gives a response. Node and Python are the fastest for those because the startup time is like super quick. It's slower for languages like C# and Java because they're compiled, so it takes them a little bit to like spin up. Java, actually the cold start time for lambdas with Java is absolutely hideous. It's like 2 or 3 seconds, which in internet time is terrible, right? Nobody on the internet is going to be waiting 2 or 3 seconds for literally anything. So that's out. But yeah, JavaScript, I would easily say is like Node is like pretty fast. But although I like working with C# better on large projects than I do with JavaScript, just for a lot of reasons. Okie doke. So I got all my stuff. And what should I do next? I need DTOs. And then I'm going to need to map between the DTOs. So I'm going to need models. I'm going to need a mapper. Okay, and then once I do all this, then I can get into the mediator and the controllers and the business logic. I'm still doing a lot of setup stuff. But that's part of being a developer. When you're starting a new project, you have to do a bunch of the setup stuff. Okie doke. What do I want to do next? Let's do some DTOs. It's going to be a lot of them. I don't want them in a gigantic pile. Or do I? Do I care? I do care. I'm being honest with myself, I do care. All right, they're going to be in their own little folders. All right, so I'm probably going to need... I'll fill in the departments myself. I don't think I need an API for the departments because that's like the company doesn't have like new departments all the time. Like that they have their departments and like they're where they're at and that's it. So don't need that. I will need endpoints for the tickets. I will need endpoints for probably not visibility users necessarily. Let me think about that. Yes, I will. I will need for visibilities and support users. I will need, obviously, for comments. Users probably will not need an endpoint for that. There's just like probably, unless I have a front end for HR to add new users, I'm picturing that like in like a real life scenario, HR always does their own thing. Like it doesn't matter what software you write, the HR department always does its own thing because somebody has a big idea. So they probably have their own list of users that I'm just syncing with our own database, to be honest with you. So I probably don't need endpoints for creating and updating new users because I'm just going to be grabbing it from their database anyway. So I'm probably going to need endpoints for tickets, support users, visibility users, and comments. I might be putting my foot in my mouth later, but that's what I am thinking I'm going to be needing. All right. Oh, got some more people. So welcome. If you're new, I am doing a live stream where I am building an actual application. The tech stack is going to be .NET API for the back end with SQL as a database, and then the front end will be Angular. All right. So I'm doing this because my bootcamp students are doing their final project. So as an act of solidarity, I do a project with them. Also, it will help them kind of think through what we're help them with their own projects and help them with their thinking. All right, let's do some DTOs. All right, so I think the ticket is the first one. And so we'll do create ticket DTO. And what a DTO basically is I don't want the entities, right? The actual, the representation of the data from the database to go directly to the user. I want there to be like the API layer, the part that the person using the API sees, and then like the database. So there's some separation. That helps with security. There may be things in the database I don't want to be like inadvertently kicked up to the front end and vice versa. So having like two separate objects, two separate layers will help make this a lot easier. So what things from the ticket do I need the user to give to me? They have to obviously give me all this stuff, but they don't need to give me the comments or anything else like that. So I can just basically take these things, and this is what I want from them. All right, neat. And then I need to create a ticket DTO, which is what I'm going to show them. Yeah, I actually did that part earlier. You missed it. I already got rid of the drawing, but I did that part earlier. I still I don't know. I model things in my head, honestly speaking, at this point. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I probably should use a UML diagram, but at this point, I just have in my head like many to many, many to one, one to one, or nothing. And it either fits into one of those categories. If it does, there's like a way to like do it, except for self-referencing stuff, which I forgot how to do. All right, we need the ID of the ticket and all the other crap from here. And I also probably want to show them when the ticket was made and who made it. So I probably will need the user. I can stick the user in here. All right, and so where's my base model? Go to definition. I need create it on and create it by. Yep. Neat. And then that's just a string. I probably want to show their other information in the front end. So I think what I will do is I will make a property and just call created by, make this a user. So that way, like when I show the ticket, it'll be like so-and-so put in this ticket, and it'll have like their like happy little like LinkedIn profile picture with their name. And so this user will have all that information. All right, so I got my ticket DTO, I got my create ticket DTO. All right, neat. Do I want to update a ticket? Yes, tickets do need to be updated. All right. I know, it's like watching paint dry. Again, like, you know, not all dev stuff is super glamorous. I know. When we update the ticket, what am I going to allow them to update? I actually don't know if I want to let them update this priority or the severity, but they might need to. I'd have to have some logic saying who could do those things. But I think in general, you could update those things. I don't want to stop someone from doing that. Yeah, but I do want some stuff set though. Like I don't want people willy-nilly running in and resetting things, but they could make a mistake with these things. Like someone could inadvertently say something super high priority and their boss could come and be like, nah, bro, that's not like critical. That's like medium. Like, nah, bro. I guess they could like do tug of war with the status, but I'll just let them go ahead and do that. The language I think could be set from the beginning, so I don't know if I want them to update that. And I want them to update the description. Yeah, they could screw up. Anything they screw up or could screw up, I need to let them update so they can fix it. Yeah, I gotta include the language too. Okay, they could screw up the priority, yes. They could screw up the severity, yes. They could screw up the status, 100%. Title description, they probably are going to screw up, and language, for whatever reason, will probably be screwed up as well. All right, so they can fix their screw up. All right, got my DTOs. Alrighty dighty. Now I'm going to have to do my commands and my queries. I want to do CQRS. Do I have enough energy left? I want to keep this to about 2 hours. All right, so it looks like after about 2 hours, I was able to get my modeling done. Probably will have to change it a little bit like later, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. Probably when I start doing testing with my business logic, I am going to figure that out. I probably can get the mapper done, so I'll do a ticket mapper. And then off camera, I'll finish the rest of the data transfer objects. That way you guys aren't sitting here watching me make C# objects all day. But we were able to get Auth0 integrated in with the API. I have cores set up. I have entity framework set up. I've got tables. I've got, what else the hell do I got? The basic modeling done. And I'm working the DTOs. I'll have to do the mappers that will map the DTO to the model and vice versa. And then what I need to do next are the mediator stuff. Okay, so the next stage after doing all this basic, like making your DTOs and mappers and all this boring stuff, is to actually do the business logic. So like, how do you determine whether or not someone can update the status of a ticket or close a ticket? And then, like, you know, what happens when someone submits a ticket? Where does it go to? How do we decide that? I also will be able to like load up the database with some the different departments and some test users, so I can begin testing. Which reminds me, I probably should go ahead and make my testing project as well. Let's do NUnit. Oh, back. I don't want that. There we go. C# NUnit. Yep. And we'll just call this solve it unit testing. All right, neat. And I think I need to add a reference. Add project reference. Where's the project reference? Project reference. Cool. Okay, that'll be for later. That way I don't have to think about it now. All right. No, that way I don't have to think about it later. I can do it now. Scratch that. Reverse it. All right. So, all right, ticket mapper. I'll do one just to kind of show how this works. I could use a library called AutoMapper, and that would basically do this for me. And you're like, what are you talking about? So I have a ticket DTO, which is going to be what's going to be returned in my controller. So the only thing the user ever going to see is the data that's in the ticket DTO. But I'm going to pull this ticket from the database. Okay, that's what's going to come from the database. So I need, for example, if the priority is like severe here, when I make this ticket DTO, I need to set the priority to the same priority it was in the original ticket. So that's called mapping. I need to basically pick up a piece of data from one side and drop it off on the other. AutoMapper does that for me. I could use a library, but AutoMapper does really wacky things, especially with like nulls. And so I don't know if I want to deal with all that. Plus, later on, I may want to do my own custom stuff. And I'd rather just do the mapping myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bunch of helper methods. So I'm going to call this public static. Let's convert a ticket to a ticket DTO. So return a ticket DTO. I'm going to call this to DTO as a function. And this, oh my God, I love IntelliSense. It is creepy. It knew exactly what I wanted to do. All right, so then I'm going to return. Oh, we can do this even. We can do the arrow stuff because that's new. And then what is it? Return. The arrow means return. I thought I could do this. New ticket DTO. I'm pretty sure I can do this. Yes, I can. Nice. Oh, I can even do this. We can even do Yes, excellent. All right, so now we can basically write almost nothing. Perfect. All right, and so I get the ticket, it's turning into a ticket DTO. So ID, and then what else is there? ID, priority, severity, status. Priority, severity, status. So what else? Title, description, language. Yada, yada, yada. Created by, create on. Okay, oops. Okay, so in the ticket, it's not a user, right? Created by is a string. Okay, so we'll have to deal with that separately outside of this, but everything else will get mapped. And so the reason I do this is so that I can, when I convert it, I can do like ticket.toDTO, and then it will just run this for me. So this is called a static extension method. And so I can just use that for convenience later. So typically what I would do is I would make all my DTOs and then make my mappers for the DTOs so that when I start working with everything else, I can, they're already there for me. All right, so let's talk next steps. I'm going to end the stream in a little bit because I've been at this for 2 hours. My head's going to explode. Actually, I probably could keep going. But basically, as you can see, starting on a new project, most of what I spent doing was stuff that was like foundational. So entity framework, setting up my models, setting up the relationships, making sure the tables were made, making data transfer objects so that when I do the controller stuff later, I can do that. I made a base controller for my all my controllers that will get the user ID from the JSON web token. I put in Auth0, I did cores. So there's a lot of like basic stuff that's necessary to do, so I don't have to do work later. And it's all necessary stuff. Obviously, I'm going to use authentication, and plus I had to make some decisions. For example, with tickets, I'm going to have to support multilingual tickets. There could be tickets that are written in Portuguese, Korean, or Spanish. And so I had to think about, hey, how am I going to save that in the database? So if I have like 1 million tickets, am I going to be paying Billy Gates $1 million to hold that in an Azure database? How can I do that efficiently? I also will probably need to do, what's it called? In SQL, there's like text search. And turn that on so that in case I would like to search for the description, I can do that in a much more efficient manner. I have to go into SQL though. I don't think you can turn it on through Entity Framework. I'm going to have to go into SQL and set it to on, so that way when I search the description of tickets, because I'm thinking the description of a ticket could be this big, and so if I'm doing a text search, if I'm looking for content within it, if I have 1 million tickets, that's going to suck because it's going to have to go through the whole thing. So SQL allows you to take blocks of text and index them for words so that it can more quickly search through them, but I don't think that there's a way to do that through Entity Framework, though I could be wrong. I'm going to have to turn that on in SQL, so that way with searching through tickets, it's going to be faster. And then I think I've covered how I'm going to do the users and the relationships, although I will probably change them later, and then roles. And so the next major step after this, after doing the boring DTO mapper stuff, is to start integrating Mediator. So Mediator is a library. I already have it installed. It's going to allow me to do CQRS, command query responsibility segregation, is a design pattern. And the way I usually explain it is one side wants to do a thing, the other side has a bunch of things that can handle doing the thing. So instead of having code that both says, I would like to do this thing, and here's how you do it, you like rip them apart, and you say, okay, on this side is what do you want to do, and then on this side is how do you want to accomplish that. And that keeps your program a little bit more modular, but it does make it more complicated. So I'm going to have to write a lot more commands and queries, but I think I'll save that for the next stream when we get to that. So far, I think I got a good start on the API. I'm building the API first, mainly because I want to make sure all my business logic is like sound. I don't want to make views and then like not have the business logic like under my feet. I want to have all the business logic done and then tested, and then when I get to the front end, then it will just be like, okay, I make a view, post a ticket, add people on it. All the functionality will work exactly the way I plan to, and then I can go through the long, arduous task of doing Angular. I'm a full stack engineer, I'm not going to lie, but I tend to be more back-end focused. Like I like algorithms and APIs and all that stuff a bit more. So it takes me longer to get the front end going. So if all this stuff is working, I feel like it's easier for me to tackle it. There are some people who do it the other way. They start with the front end and they build all their views, and then they will mock the back end for like data, and then once they're done, they'll go to the back end, go to all the endpoints they need, and make stuff work. I just think that for this particular project, that might not be the most sound strategy, because the logic of how you're going to take a ticket and route it through this workflow is going to be the biggest challenge, and having a pretty front end doesn't help you solve that challenge. All right, so I'm going to end it here. When we start back next time, I'll have more details and mappers. That's just boring stuff. I don't want you to sit here and watch me do that. That's just me making more of these types of methods. It's kind of snooze fest. So when we get back, probably next week, I will get into Mediator. I'm thinking I like to stream twice a week. Let's see if that works. I know I can stream on Tuesdays, but we'll see next time when I want to stream. But if you are here through the whole thing, you're a champion. If I will put this up on YouTube later so people can see it. But this was mostly getting the setup done and the modeling. And next